What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ransom Reviews. We're going to do the top five fiction books that I read in 2021. We're going to do it fast food drive-through edition very quickly. We've all got places to be, right? So let's start with number five, which is actually number five and number six. It was a tie. They both scored 8.0 overall. All Quiet on the Western Front and The Midnight Library. All Quiet on the Western Front is a classic war book literature. I just got around to reading it. It's very well written. It does a great job of draining the romanticism out of war. In fact, it's quite depressing at parts, but a good kind of depressing. War sucks, and this book highlights that. So, very good read. Midnight Library, on the other hand, is about a girl trapped in an infinite library where each book is an alternate version of her life. It's a very cool idea, cool concept, and the writing is like a warm muffin. It's nice and very pleasant, but it does get a little bit preachy towards the end. Coming in at number four was The Body by Stephen King. This is more of a novella than a book per se, but that's okay. My list, my rules. The story was the basis for Stephen King's Stand By Me movie. It's very classic Stephen King. It's a book about a bunch of boys growing up in a small town. It's almost impossible to not relate to some of the characters or to believe what's happening in their lives. The dialogue is great. The characters are great. The writing is dark and humorous and great. I'm going to say great a lot. And utterly captivating without even having much of a plot. Number three is Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This also scored an 8.5 overall. Your first question might be, shouldn't this be science fiction? If you read the blurb on Goodreads, it literally says the first science fiction book written by a Black woman. But I actually don't think this is science fiction, strangely enough. Yes, it is about a Black woman traveling through time from relatively modern Los Angeles back to the antebellum South, the Jim Crow era. But really, the time traveling is just like a MacGuffin to get her point across. Butler really just wants to explore the idea of taking a modern Black woman and transplanting her into the slave era, which is such a crazy concept. And it's just as dark and hurtful and brutal to read as you would expect it to be. So yeah, I read this book and I didn't really feel like there was much sci-fi going on, even though there was time traveling. Really, to me, this was more like literature. This was a book that was exploring really heavy, important themes. The US's messed up history and how a modern Black woman might deal with the horror of that time period. The book is brilliant. It hurts, but it should hurt. And I don't really care what genre it is. I love Octavia E. Butler. Number two is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which also scored an 8.5. I'm honestly shocked that I liked this book so much. It doesn't really have a plot. It doesn't make any sense. It meanders. It circles back on itself. It's weird. It's creepy. There's incest. And I love it. I've never read anything like this book, to be honest. The writing is so alive and strange, and it mesmerized me from start to finish. What's it about? I don't know. It's a bunch of Jose's, and they have a bunch of sons named Jose, who might also have sons named Jose, and they're all kind of the same person, and they all live in this town. And yeah, this book got me to buy like 10 books in the magical realism genre. So I hope that works out. Number one on my list is this kind of a surprise, I think, and it is Riley's Luck by Louis L'Amour. I'd heard about this dude for a while, this guy who basically just writes Western fiction. And I really enjoy that time period, the Wild West, American frontier. And so I had been searching for this guy's books for a while, and this was the first one that I was able to track down and find and read. And man, it's just nice. What can I say? It's like this, aw shucks, man raises an orphan because it's the right thing to do. It's just short and pleasant and comfortable, like an old pair of slippers. I love the Old West, and while this isn't a classic epic like Lonesome Dove, it's really well plotted, and the story is really interesting, and the characters are interesting, and it's highly enjoyable. It might only be shin deep, but it has great legs. So that is it. My top five general fiction books that I read in 2021. Just working my way through these lists from last year, nice and slowly. Hopefully next week I'll do top 10 nonfiction, and then my favorite top 10 books that I hated for last year. So that's it. Thanks for sticking around. Drop a comment, and I'll see you next time on Ransom Reviews.